It is the one and only Astral, baby, and I've been off the scene for a little bit, but I'm never away too long. And believe me, no matter how much time I spend away from sitting in front of this camera, there's always more going on than meets the eye. And let me tell you, some of you guys have been writing and saying that you have been seeing me in your dreams. This is not a figment of your imagination, as we are always jumping into one another's dream and sharing information. Same thing has happened to me. Brothers and sisters come into my dream more than often. I do remember much of it, but just like many of us, when we wake up here, the veil of forgetfulness comes down, but the information is never lost, because whatever we share with one another, it goes into the subconscious and it comes out at the right time, when the planets line up, when we've removed our blockages, when we kind of detoxify our environment, or when we change our environment. Some of us are kind of dwelling in more toxic environments more so than others, which makes it that much more difficult for us to access much of the information that we are sharing. But never forget, nothing is ever lost. Now, I want you guys to know that I had done a calibration level on the planet, and collectively speaking, we are at 85% out of 100. Now that's pretty impressive, and that means that we are on a steady incline in our awareness, or the shift, or the great awakening. Now, you may look around and think and wonder, how in the world is the planet at 85% when we see all this craziness going on? Well, that craziness that we perceive is only on the surface, and that is a part of the shift. In order for the new to come in, the old must fall away. It must fall apart and fall away. And so, one of the main reasons why we are at 85% is not so much because it is the majority, it is because there is that minority group, and pretty much it's always been that way for a very long time, but I digress. That minority group who's holding for the first time in a very, very long time, if ever. I didn't chart this particular question, but we have approximately 600 people who are holding 1,000 in calibration level, and some of those people are you. Having a 1,000 calibration level does not mean we're instantly perfect and we're floating on clouds. It simply means that our calibration level is so much more expanded, and one of the reasons why this huge leap had occurred was due to the fourth dimension. When we took that leap into the fourth dimension, some of us took a huge calibration jump. And so this means that we are more anchored, more open to anchoring what we would call the Christ consciousness. And this is in effect affecting the vibratory levels around us, on the planet, and so on and so forth. So yes, believe it or not, many of you guys who are looking at me right now are at 1,000 in calibration level. It does not mean that we are perfect. It does not mean that we are better. We just kind of got a little head start. We kind of put ourselves in a position where we can really anchor in some of these energies that we've been talking about, and we have more insight and more intuitive feeling and awareness that much of what we have been fed, and much of what we are still being fed, are illusions. We can see past that. It's not as easy to lure us with propaganda and fear mongering and smoke and mirrors, so to speak. So that is good news. That is definitely good news. Now, the gist of why I wanted to do this video is because since I've started doing these videos, I've been getting emails from people talking about having experiences where people had seen them out and about, but while they were in bed, while they were asleep, so to speak. And remember, we're never really asleep, so to speak. I digress. Let me come back here. Y'all know how I do. But so many people now are having, it's kind of along the lines of astral projection, but Many of us are spontaneously bilocating. What is bilocating? Bilocating is what we call the etheric copy of the physical body. The physical body is dense, light energy. Okay? The etheric body is a subtle, more lighter copy of the dense physical. The etheric body is not bound by gravity and the physics of physicality naturally. So what is happening now that the planet, we're going through this shift and this rockiness going on, as more of us awaken, more of us are having spontaneous abilities that we had long since forgotten how to do. It is a part of that awakening. So just imagine being someone who lost your memory and you were an excellent fighter. You are an excellent fighter, but you forgot that you were an excellent fighter. But as you awaken, you're put in a position where you're in harm's way. And in that moment of an adrenaline rush, you suddenly, bring out these moves, and you don't know how you know these moves, and you basically knock someone out. I mean, I've seen this depicted in movies before. Let's just tie that to your etheric body, those multi-layers of yourself. And so what is happening is more of us are bilocating in third density. And when this happens, those of us who are in physical third density can actually interact and see the etheric double, and it appears to be just as physical as the physical body itself. And I'm not going to mention the particular family member's name who had written me, and she said that she knew she was asleep, but the next thing she knew, she was outside somewhere walking down the street, and a dog was following her, and she noticed she still had on her nightgown, and it was very first person. She knew this was real, this was not a dream, and she was really, really confused. So she looked at some guy and asked the guy, where am I? She said the guy was looking at her really crazy, like, this lady is off her rockers, looking very perplexed. And he told her where she was, and then she thought, wow, I never heard of that. And next thing she felt a jolt, and she woke up, and she remembered the name. She was somewhere in Canada. She remembered the name, and she looked up to see if there was such a place. And sure enough, a place where the guy had told her where she was really did exist, and she saw that as validation. And I told her, yes, that is validation. She never heard of this place. She didn't even know there was such a place that existed in Canada. Now, from the gentleman's perspective, he probably thought he was looking at a ghost or a crazy woman, but I'm sure after he looked away for a second, so she disappeared in thin air, he probably thought that she was a ghost. And so many times when we have these spontaneous bilocation experiences, people may perceive that as the person they know, or they may perceive it as a ghost. Okay? In contrast, family, ghosts are very rare. Ghosts are usually seen on areas where there are ley lines, and ley lines give off a lot of energy. It would take a lot of energy for a ghost, someone who's disembodied, permanently disembodied, to manifest in a physical 3D way. It takes a lot of energy to do that, and this is why ghosts are typically seen in areas where there are ley lines. Ghosts tend to show up along those areas, but more than often, when we do see beings manifesting outside of ley lines, and they appear and disappear many times, these are actually people who are bilocating unbeknownst to them. Now, some of you guys may ask, how could someone bilocate and do all these things and have no conscious memory of doing so? The same reason why some of us may, go out and get so drunk and have a whole night of adventure and wake up the next morning and have no memory of any of it. But it happened because you had family and friends who witnessed it, or if you had a friend videotaping our shenanigans, you have the witness of this occurring, although you don't consciously remember. The same is true for people who sleepwalk. I have a close friend who will get up and go cook a meal, eyes wide open, or have a conversation with family and friends, and will wake up the next morning and have absolutely no memory that it occurred. We are doing it every night when we are in our dream state. You know, we are doing so much more than we consciously remember. I'm at a point now, I lucid dream. If I'm not astral projecting, I'm lucid dreaming every night. But even still, there are those moments when I go out so high, and if the information is if the information that is shared with me, it's not quite time for me to receive it, I don't remember everything. I'll have pieces of the puzzle, so to speak. But I also know that nothing is ever lost. The information is there, but it does come out at a time when we most need it. Even in between lifetimes, nothing is ever really forgotten. You know, yeah, we kind of forget who we were in previous lives. There's a reason for that, but it's not forgotten. It's a temporal amnesia or state of amnesia that is put there for many reasons that I don't care to get into right now. But just because we don't remember it does not mean that we are not doing it or have not done it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Yes, you guys, if you have friends saying, oh, I saw you walking down the street, you walked with a funny limp, but it was you because you wave and you smile, you know, don't be surprised. It very well could have been your etheric copy while you were in bed asleep, or asleep in the way that we've been conditioned to believe sleep is. So this is another interesting dynamic as to what is going on here on this planet at this most interesting time in history. The other thing I want to talk about is something that I kind of touched on in my last video about the astral realm ultimately coming down. Now, some of you guys may be aware that there is what you would call a war going on the lower astral realm. And some of you guys, just for the sake of this conversation, because this is how humans have been conditioned to compartmentalize and put names on things. Some of you guys talk about the demons warring on the astral realm and all this stuff. There's some truth to that, absolutely. But some of you guys have made astral projections synonymous or only tied to the astral realm. The astral realm is only one area, and it's primarily the lower part is lower part of the astral realm tend to be where parasitic entities dwell and the deceptive types dwell, and then the higher levels tend to be more mental or catering more to the mental processes. One of the reasons why it must come down is because it has been a net and a place of deception for so very long. When those of us, when we raise our vibration and align ourselves with the new earth, there will be no more need for that particular realm, because we are going to have to take full responsibility for everything we project out into the ether. Meaning, if we are out of balance, that what we project back will be instantly given back to us. Many of us who are already vibrating at a certain rate are already experiencing this. This is why some people can get away with certain things and it seems like they get away with it and they go on and on and on. It's because what they're putting out there is kind of being captured in a net and it's being fed off of. And so in many ways they appear to be getting away with something, but truly none of us are really getting away with anything. It's just kind of slowing down a process. So when that veil is, or that net, so to speak, is completely removed, we will be more free to evolve. Some of us talk about a quarantine being around the planet. It's whether you call it a quarantine or a veil. The astral realm has been in many ways like a quarantine and a veil and a net as well. And when that quarantine or that net drops, so will the astral realm. Astral projection is more than going to the astral realm. We can astral project to other places on the planet, other dimensions, other planets. It's not just the astral realm. We must keep that in mind. Many of us are just always associating the two. Now, if you can imagine, one of the family members have written this before, if you can imagine a world where you don't need a vehicle because you will be able to consciously split your etheric body, or even if we were to go up to a much, much higher, far less denser plane, we can project ourselves anywhere at will and be anywhere we want to be just by thought. The same thing is true with communicating. Instead of using a device to communicate with someone across the world, if we were truly connected to our God or goddess state of beingness in its 100% pure state, we will be able to communicate with anyone right where we are. There will be no need for automobiles, telephones, systems that profit from our labor and workforce to earn monopoly money to pay for services to do these things. Can you imagine a world like that? Such places do exist. This is one of the reasons why many of us have come here, lowered our vibration, agreed to forget who we are while we are awakened here, to help lift the vibration of the planet by making us aware of the true reality or the true nature of reality, and making us aware that if we want the world to change, we have to change first. And that starts with the genetic rewiring, recoding, whatever you want to talk about, how you want to associate it. It also means the calibration and the expansion of the mind. And that happens when we keep ourselves open to information. The moment we close ourselves off to information, we close off our potential. We close off our evolutionary potential. I can't say that enough. Now, I want you guys to please follow me. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take another deep breath in and out. Always make sure your diaphragm, which is just beneath your rib cage, this should always expand. Let's do that again. Breath in through the nose and out. And on that note, family, I want you guys to know that you are so loved beyond measure. Continue to learn, question, and grow. And as always, happy travels.